Oh, great.
You said to us on this show last Monday that in terms of importance of games, there were none more important for St Kilda, and in terms of their match-up against Collingwood, a game you think they should win.
Yep.
They also didn't appear to have their mind right in it in terms of or play with the intensity to match where you saw this game.
No, if you brought a boxing analogy to it, it's like they were happy to come out and touch gloves and then just see what the fight gave them. They weren't prepared to throw the first punch. And so Collingwood came out and they were ferocious and they brought pressure, and the Saints just didn't handle it. They were floppy in the tackle, they coughed the footy up, they didn't bring the level of pressure that we know they can when they play great footy, which they did in the back half of last year. So it was a really disappointing performance. I thought they were meek in the first half.
It's a damning assessment, and Brett Ratten would argue against it. He thought that they were ready. This is what he had to say.
When we should have absorbed that pressure and probably didn't apply the same tackling pressure that they did as well. So full credit to them, but it wasn't like we didn't know it was coming. Their pressure numbers through the community series and in their pre-season game against Hawthorn was very high.
So knew it was coming and didn't handle it.
Well, knowing it's coming and handling it are two different things, and they didn't handle it. The fight back was good, the response was good, but I mean, it was just a little bit too predictable because, you know, that's been the issue in the past, is handling expectation. And then when you're stung into action, when your pride's been hurt, then they get going. And, I mean, it was a game they could have won in the end, but they gave up a big start.
They play a bit differently. They played a bit conservatively. Certainly early on it appeared that they were conservative.
They seem to. I'm not sure whether that was the plan, but for a side that played on as aggressively as they did last year, I think number 2 in the competition, the first half especially, I think that the number was much lower than that at half-time. So
that flies in the face of what we've been talking about a go forward at all costs mentality, which seemed to have...
It looked like that, though, didn't it? It looked like they tried to play perfect footy at times.
Yeah, no, it did. And you know, I like St Kilda when they are playing with that energy, which you've identified wasn't there, but it's also energy that's energy without the footy, but their energy with the ball is when they look most dangerous. And they weren't getting it. They weren't getting it from Hill or half-back. They only really got an injection of the urgency and a touch of classes when Sinclair went from half-back into the middle of the ground.
Yeah, so I think that was identifying a bit of an issue of pace in there. Sinclair went in, but the Brad Hill one was interesting. I mean, recruited as a winger, you send him to half-back to try and provide a little bit of creativity coming off half-back. And maybe this was a reaction to static ball movement in the first half, but then it was almost like they went out of their way to give the guy the footy when he was in positions where he just had no right to really be receiving it. And this is the fine line between holding a player accountable to the role that you want them to play and almost giving them an out and going out of your way to try and bring them into the game at times when it doesn't suit the team.
It's been on the record. That's been a public declaration last year on the record, is that we need to get him the footy more often. Can it tip over? Can he then take the attitude, well, actually, give me the footy, and then, as you just said, they give it to him in wrong position?
It seemed to on the weekend. I understand that he looked like he was trying to actually get something going in a game where they were being pretty conservative, but didn't find the balance on the weekend.
Worried then?
About the Saints?
Yeah,
there were a few signs for me. I mean, the Jack Higgins one, for example, was one that I think would be, I hope it would be spoken about really, really strongly this week. I mean, this is at a time when the team is coming. You give that ball to Jade Gresham, who's the classiest player in the team, and he walks into an open goal, basically, at a really important stage of the game. So, look, if I'm Brett Ratten, I'm using that as an opportunity to set a standard from round one. So I'd give him a spell this week.
They got no output from their small forwards, from Butler, from Gresham, from Higgins. There was just nothing. And even when they went to their tools, the ball that hit the ground, you go, well, where are they? This is what they recruited these players for, and they weren't there. It was almost like the smalls often got caught too far up the ground and they weren't there to support the talls when there was a contest.
That's just plain selfish.
Well, I just want to get,
that is,
I want to get back to that just for a minute then. So, you know, the successful sides we've seen have been built on, in recent times anyway, on this mantra of selflessness. Like, it's not about me, it's what I can do. And, you know, there's been really classic examples of that. So when you see that to me says, well, that hasn't either hasn't been discussed or it's been discussed and not everyone's buying in. Because that is just given by the good sides without thinking every single time.
Yep.
So what is it? Is it that it hasn't been embraced within that footy club and there's still a yard behind the really good sides in terms of the way they think about footy? Or is that just an isolated incident where Jack made a really bad call.
Well, I think whichever way you go, it's an opportunity for everyone to have an education. So I would educate Jack and I would give him a spell this week, and it would be a message to the rest of the team that we're not going to accept that level of selfishness in the team.
You made a call. You said the good sides automatically give that. They're not a good side.
No.
They're one of the great enigmas in the competition, the Saints. They tease and they tease and they tease, and everyone says, oh, this is the year. They've got all this talent. They're going to play well. They just keep teasing. And until they start doing those sort of things automatically and not have players going into survival mode because they're feeling the heat, they're not going to be a good team.
Have they